So recently I celebrate my 22-year anniversary, and my wife and I decided a while back that we weren't going to have children. And I've been watching my father-in-law's experience in the care home, and he's 93 years old. He's been there for a few years now, and it kind of brought back the question of, what's going to happen to us when we get to that age, when we get to our 80s or 90s. Who's going to take care of us? And I think those are the questions that are starting to come up now that never did before when I turned 50. And in this video, I want to break down the truth about aging without a safety net, especially if you're solo, you're not married or have kids. But even if you are married and have kids, you'll probably learn something from this as well. And I want to explain to you and share what I'm building right now to protect my independence when I get to that age. Because the decisions you make or the decisions you avoid in your 50s will eventually become, eventually be made by strangers when you get to that age. So you want to make sure that you take care of these things now before things, before you really have to take care of it, right? So the first thing I want to say is, children are family, but by all means, they're not a guarantee care plan. And I think for a lot of people in society, they're conditioned to believe that children are the foolproof eldercare strategy for when they get old. And from my experience, just from the care home, is a lot of kids really don't take care of their elderly parents. A lot don't even visit them. Now, I have this one Japanese lady that is in the care home, and she has a son that visits twice a month. And we're all often told by the care workers that our family visits our father-in-law the most out of all the residents. And my wife and I were talking about this the other day, and we're thinking, what are the other residents thinking when they, see our family there visiting our father-in-law? And what's going through their head? Because I know that when this gentleman visits his Japanese mother, and when he leaves, she's crying. So I think it's one of those things that it's kind of heartbreaking, because my wife and I were talking about this. It's kind of like a kid, waiting for mom and dad to come home. But you always knew that mom and dad were going to come home at a certain time. But I think a lot of these residents, they don't know when their family member is going to come back, right? And so when my wife put it that way, it really hit home. And it's not to criticize the other families. Everyone's got their reasons. And I'm not going to pass judgment. But really what I want to say from that story is just highlight that it's really a gamble to assume that your kids are going to be there to take care of you. And I know from past comments, when I did a video on deciding to not have kids, I know some of the people that had kids came into the comment section and were ragging on and dogging the people that didn't have kids, and they were saying stuff like, "Oh, you'll see what happens when you're going to grow old alone and no one's there to take care of you." And I just want to say that that it's not a guarantee, and I don't think these people should get so how should I say, high and mighty and confident. And from the last video I did, I can see from the comments from people who have kids and who are elderly now, and they say the same thing. Say what I what I said is basically, there's no guarantee that the kids are going to come and take care of you. And the second thing I want to mention is, I think many of us obviously are, sorry, the bugs here. I think we really fear, it's not so much being alone, growing alone, that I think people are scared about. I think it's the fact that you're not given a choice, and that choice is removed from you is what causes a lot of fear in all of us in aging and dying alone, right? Because, I don't know about you, but for me, I don't want a person to choose where I live, have control over my money, or even being treated poorly, or being dependent on, some care home and treated like some burden instead of some, like a human being. So I have a very strong aging plan, because I believe that having a strong aging plan will help you preserve your choices for as long as possible. And for me, it's always been maintaining health. I mean, I train jiu-jitsu probably 3 or 4 times a week, and I weight train 4 times a week as well. And I eat a very healthy diet. And so, because I remember my grandmother who didn't take care of her health and how she suffered in her mid-70s with declining health. And I promised myself at a young age, ever since I was 9, that I was never going to do that. And so that it's very important. I mean, you see people like Dick Van Dyke, who's I think 100 years old. I read an article the other day, and he was talking about his health regiment, and it was the reason why he is so healthy now in his in his old age. And also someone like Chuck Norris. I know he passed away not that long ago, but he passed away, I think it was 86 or something like that. But he was climbing a mountain the month before. So I really, admire those people, and I think that's the best way to go out. So maintaining the health and things like that. And the third thing is, I'm building a personal board of directors, because since I don't have kids, and maybe my wife will be around, or maybe she won't be around. Well, maybe she won't be capable. But I think a lot of people that have kids, they assume that, they're going to have like the one child who's going to be the hero and take care of everything. But that's further from the truth, right? And I think if you build a board of directors, you're not going to pass the burden off to just one individual, because that's a lot of responsibility to have, and it can be very stressful. So, in my life, I have a small network of people that I'm building. My lawyer, my accountant. I have friends, especially my martial arts students who are younger. They would notice if I'm gone for a long period of time, and they would ask, inquire about, what happened to me and stuff like that. And having a person that will advocate for me, for my finances and so forth. And I think together they'll form some kind of safety net that's more reliable than relying on one person. And so I believe that it's important for you guys to build a community now to, help each other, especially the ones that are 10 years or 20 years younger than you, and they can look after, help look after your interests and so forth. You help them out, and those people will hopefully help you back. And because if you don't build today, you're just going to end up really in trouble later on, because you really want to build that network now, and not when you're are in a crisis mode and you have to. And the fourth thing I want to mention is buy your independence before it becomes expensive. I know a lot of you were saying that you need money for care, and that's partially true, right? It can buy better care, long-term care, but money can only go so far as well. You can't guarantee good health with it. You certainly can't buy loving relationships, but what it does do is create options for you. And you have to figure out like how much home care assistance is going to cost you. Does your home currently work for you if your mobility is limited? Do you have the legal documents in place that allow the right person to act on your behalf if you can't yourself? For me, I'm simplifying my fixed expenses. I'm not buying new stuff. Actually, I'm giving away a lot of stuff, and I'm making sure that all my accounts are in order, and also reducing the number of things that another person will be left to untangle. I know for my aunt that passed away a number of years ago, it took my cousin years to go through all their accounts and all her stuff and just get rid of it. And he lived out of town, so he was flying in all the time to sort through this stuff and had to put it in storage. And yeah, it was quite a mess. And you'll find out stuff that he didn't know for years, right? And just uncover it through diaries or whatever. So, and the last part is planning for your 80s. Will definitely free your mind in your 50s. So stop focusing on what will happen when you're 80, because my wife, she always worries all the time about long-term care. I mean, every time I talk about retirement and how we're going to spend our time, she goes back to the long-term care. And it is important, but if you think about it, I mean, we're spending so much time, or she's spending so much time focusing on that aspect of just being comfortable and existing the last few years of your life. And to me, that's not living, right? Is that really where we want to put the focus? So there's nothing you could really do to predict what's going to happen. So just get the things in order that you can control. Your finances in order. Because if you start thinking about it, this is going to cause you anxiety all the time. So take care of it, and so that you're good with it, your mind is free, and now you can start to enjoy all the things that you should be enjoying in your 50s and the second chapter of your life. So, take care of yourself, your health, your wellness, fitness, traveling to exotic places or wherever you want to go, spending time with friends, or maybe a side job, some meaningful work or something like that, volunteering, living your life fully with purpose before the decline comes. And yeah, just enjoy your life. So I want to find out from you guys, what is one thing about aging that you've been avoiding thinking about? I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment below. I read every comment, and if you like this channel, you like the content I create, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. And sorry, I'm just trying to catch my breath and walking uphill. And feel free to check out my next video. All right, take care, and I'll see you guys next time.